Good afternoon. My name is Gabriel. I am CTO and co-founder of Invarch Network. And I want to talk to you guys about our Multisig solution, which is called Saturn. And I also want to showcase Saturn Gateway, which is our full application built on top of Saturn. So what is Saturn? First, I'd like to define the two main multisig types that exist these days. The first one is off-chain multisigs, where you set up accounts by combining and rederiving private keys based on the private keys of the members. And the benefits of that is that it's an actual private key, which means it can be used across any blockchain that supports that type of signature. The problem with that, though, is since the private key is derived from the members' private keys, it means you cannot change members. That would derive a whole new account. The second approach is on-chain, which has been done by projects like Gnosis Safe. The problem with that, though, is that it usually only works within that one network. And although it does allow you to have a fully dynamic multisig with change of members, custom permissions, it needs to be multi-chain to actually allow you to run full asset management across all of these fractured networks, which is what Saturn brings to the table. It is a combination of these two approaches by being on-chain, but then using cross-chain messaging protocols to allow for that multisig to transact in multiple different blockchains. So first I want to give you an overview of the Invarch network as it relates to Saturn. So the Saturn stack starts in the bottom with the Invarch network. And for this presentation, I want to focus on the XCM connections. That's what allows us to efficiently and securely transact in Polkadot. In the future, we're going to build an MPC protocol on top of Invarch that will allow us to then expand this multisig to off-chain signing and then all these other networks along with arbitrary data. So you'll be able to sign actual contracts or off-chain transactions. And then on top of this, we have the actual Saturn protocol. And this includes our Saturn SDK, which is a full SDK in TypeScript that allows anyone to build on top of this, to build higher level architecture or to build applications like Saturn Gateway, which is our full suite of applications that use this protocol. This is how the multisigs actually work on our network. So first, you set up multisig that will give you an integer ID. This ID is what your multisig is actually in the network. It's not an account. The account is derived from that ID. You can have that account derived from the ID, but multisig is not the account. And that's important because you can then have your members propose an XCM call. And then once enacted, that message is sent to the chain that you set up as the receiving chain or destination chain. And that chain rederives that account with the ID that you sent to then execute it under that account. This basically means that we can have the same account derived across any of these Polkadot chains, including the originating chain, Invarch. So we don't have to rehash accounts because we're not working with accounts. We're working with an ID. This is an overview of that XCM process. So you have a multisig ID 0. Let's see if I can zoom this a bit. No, OK. You have a multisig ID 0. And that, let's say that derives to an account 0x123. It can then transact in Invarch. But it can also send an XCM call to chains like HydraDX, where it arrives with the XCM origin of multisig ID 0, passes through XCM converters that replicate that same exact derivation function in HydraDX directly. And then those derivation functions generate the same account address, and then it can transact. This is important because if we don't run those derivation functions in HydraDX, if we run those in our chain and then ask HydraDX to trust us that the account is legitimate, it could mean that if we were malicious, we could control all their accounts, including their treasury. So this allows us to do this derivation that makes user experience a lot better, securely and safely. This is an overview of the Saturn SDK itself. I want to go over how simple it is to actually create a multisig and use it. I'm not sure if you can see that, but I can zoom here, so I'm just going to read it. We have the Saturn class, and then we call a method called create multisig. We pass metadata, which is optional, minimum support and required approval. Those are the actual thresholds, the threshold parameters. If you want to replicate a traditional multisig, you can skip required approval, set that to 0. But this way, you can actually make way more complicated multisig setups, which then allow you to have more complex governance. And then we set a fee asset, which is, in this example, set to KSM. We allow for both our token and the relay token to be used, which allows us to provide a better experience. If you don't care about Invarch, if you don't want to use Invarch, you don't have to think about it. You can just use the multisigs as if you were using Polkadot or Kusama. That allows us to have a higher level abstraction on top of our whole network. Then the second method is proposing a new member, which is showcasing that we can actually do all those dynamic modifications on the fly. It gets the multisig ID, the address of the new member, and then an amount. That amount is an amount of a fungible token because the member's voting power is set as fungible tokens. That allows us to have again more complicated, more complex multisig setups where it doesn't have to be every account equals 1 vote. It can be one account is 1 vote, another account is 10 votes, another account is 11.354 votes. You can customize all of that. And then a third method there, we're actually calling the Basilisk API. And then we're setting up a router self function call. That call would then swap tokens in the Basilisk chain. In this example, we're using the KSM Tinker pool, swapping 10 KSM. And then after that, we're just getting the weight and fee from that and passing to the last call in this example, which is the actual send XCM call. In there, we're passing destination chain as Basilisk, call data, which we just set up before. Optional metadata, weight, XCM fee, and XCM asset. We could actually just pay this fully with KSM and never even have to use BSX in the Basilisk chain if we wanted. But this shows that in just a few lines, you can set up a multisig, modify members, and then transact in other chains. And again, the docs are in that link. And we have a full implementation guide. And also, for other parachains, we have an implementation guide for integrating Saturn in the parachains. And, oh, where's my image? Well, I had an image over there. But I want to showcase now the UI for the Saturn Gateway. And I'll go over here. OK. So here we have, this is not the final UI. We're still doing some work in the sizes and in a little bit on the layout. But for example, let's select this multisig. And let's go to assets. And there we go. It loads my balances, my Tinker balance, my BSX balance, my KSM balance. And all those balances are in different chains. And for example, Tinker also have that in Tinkernet and in Basilisk. Let's go to transactions. Actually, here, let's open one of these. This is a transaction in Basilisk that will add liquidity to an XYK pool. It shows the current votes. Over here we have the one vote. This multisig is set to only require 2 members to pass, so there's only 1 vote. Otherwise, it would have disappeared from there if I passed it. But this is another important part of our abstractions. Technically, all of these calls are being made in Tinkernet. None of them are actually in Basilisk, but they're going to be sent to Basilisk, and they're going to be executed over there once the multisig actually approves them. So what we do is we just take that call from inside of the sendXCM call, and then we process that using the Basilisk API, and we show that over here as if it was just a normal Basilisk call. That way, we don't have to bother users with understanding how this works. We just show them, hey, these are your calls. They're going to be executed in these chains. You don't have to understand that this is actually in Tinkernet. So just go ahead, vote on it. Once it's done, it's going to execute. And then we're going to show the results. Members is not really styled yet. Sorry about that. But this just shows the multisig members, and might take a little moment to load. But it's actually also going to load identities. So we have aggregated identities. We take identities from all the different chains where we're connected to, and also things like Web3 name from Kilt. And then we aggregate all those, and we have a weighted function that determines what to prioritize. So for example, right now it's set to prioritize Web3 names, even if you have a nickname in another chain. So that will show up first. And then using that, we can take all the fields for the identity from different places and show you even if someone doesn't have an image in this chain, but they have a name here, and then they have an image in a different chain. Okay, let me move back to assets. In the side here, we have a very simple balance transfer panel where you can select different networks, and you can just transfer them within a network, or you can bridge them. This is not finalized yet, but this allows you to very easily move assets across different networks without ever leaving this interface. But if you do want to leave the interface, there's this little thing right here, which is not styled yet, but bear with me. Since I loaded Gabe's multisig, the Saturn Connects extension over there in the corner recognized it in this tab, and it loaded it too. What I can do now is I can come over here. Let me just log out real quick. Come over here in the Basilisk app. I can enable it over here and connect it. Bam. There we go. Let's go to wallet just to show that working. Come on, internet's a bit slow. Or not. Well, let me reload the page. There we go. And then it shows all those assets that it was showing over there in Saturn Gateway. So with this plus Wallet Connect v2 support, we allow this application to act as a wallet for your multisig. So using this, you can connect to any application within the Polkadot ecosystem, either through Wallet Connect, or if the app doesn't support it, through the extension. So this is a hybrid app wallet, and it allows you to both manage your assets and execute calls in dApps. So you don't really have to ever touch Polkadot.js apps, which is a really big thing. OK, now I want to talk a little bit about this, a new feature we're introducing soon, which we've been developing for a little bit. XCM NFTs as multisig members. What does that mean? Well, imagine you have a collection on Moonbeam. You want one of those NFTs to be a multisig member, or you want all of those to be a multisig member. You want the collection to be a DAO. What you can do is you can use our verifier contract in Moonbeam. You make a call to it saying, hey, I'm Alice. I own NFT 0. I own NFT 0 in contract 1234. I want to vote on proposal A in Multisig 0. And I want to vote, sorry, I want to vote proposal X. And I want to vote A. You send that call to the verifier contract. The verifier contract will then check if Alice owns NFT 0 in contract 1234. Once that's verified, it will then send an XCM to Invarch that has the instructions explaining that. Oh, sorry. It has the instructions explaining that I want to descend into the origin of the verifier contract, and below that, I want to descend into the NFT ID 0 in contract 1234, and then I want to transact a vote on that multisig, that proposal. That is then that origin is then converted into a native origin in our chain that represents NFTs. That origin has a parachain field with a pair ID, a collection field that could be a contract of 32 bytes, 20 bytes, or could be an ID, depending on what kind of NFT standard you have in your chain. So in Moonbeam, that would be a contract 20. In a WASM chain, that would be a contract 32. In Asset Hub, which we don't have palettes for the verifiers yet, but in Asset Hub, if that was implemented, that would be a contract ID of an integer rather than an account. Okay, so we have that origin. What we do now is we just take that origin and we make the call to the pallet. And then in the pallet, in the multisig pallet, you have already that NFT member registered. So members in the multisigs can be they're an enum, which can be either an account ID or an NFT. And this is all done seamlessly. Our chain understands NFTs. It never has to create an account for that NFT to transact. Everything from start to finish understands that that's an NFT. Let's not try to overcomplicate this. Let's just allow that to vote on our multisig. So also, NFTs are accounts in our chain, technically. And where are my images? So that's what I had to show you guys. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Over there.
Hey Gabe, super cool stuff. Saturn is probably the thing I'm most excited about it in the ecosystem. One thing I'm curious about is you talk about how you can change parameters on the fly, and how exactly you prevent someone from changing their own weight on the votes, for example. Is there an administration role? How does it work?
So the multisig itself is also a custom origin in our chain, and that's the only origin that can call the parameter change functions. So you would have to pass a multisig proposal to make a change, which means that if you want to change your voting power, you'd have to have multisig approval. So you can't just go ahead and change your own stuff. You have to pass that through a multisig vote, and then the multisig itself enacts those.
Yeah.
Hey, Gabriel. Thank you so much. My question is regarding the changing members of a multisig, and also can I do some of this on a solo chain using Substrate? So let's say I have a solo chain. I want to use the Saturn SDK. Can I do this without ever needing to communicate with another chain? And I'm asking because of you mentioning XCM. The use case here is you have a business, owners of the business are KYCing, and you want them to be part of a multisig. You want them to be members on a multisig, but that list can change over time. So the way that Saturn manages the multisig is really nice. If I would be able to kind of use that on a solo chain. Thank you.
So we have been exploring ways to bridge to other substrate chains that are not necessarily connected to the same relay. We're still researching that, but one of the solutions we're currently looking at is using ISMP to connect to solo chains, and that would allow us to connect to way more chains than we can with just the relay that we're connected to. But we would still use XCM. We would just use ISMP as the messaging relayer, the bridge, and then on the receiving chain we would use XCM to derive that account and transact.
Any more questions for Gabe? No? Okay, well, thank you very much, Gabe. It was an awesome presentation.
Thank you all for coming.
Yeah, cool. Round of applause, guys. Thank you.